Okay, it's time for me to talk about the Electoral College. I waited intentionally before making this video because timing is critical. But we African Americans must understand well this system called the Electoral College. In this video, you will get a good understanding of what the Electoral College is because it has some built-in disadvantages for us African Americans. Remember, this channel is all about empowerment. Now, after I finish this video, I want you to go to iwillvote.com to make sure you are ready to vote. Let's get into this video concerning the Electoral College. Stay with me. Hello, everybody. I am Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some trending story regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, and man, it should, please go like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell, so you'll get notified every time we upload one of these powerful videos. Now, before I get started, as always, I want you to go to Amazon.com, grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice, if you have an African-American son in public school. This book will inform you about the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys, but it will also inform you on how you can counter, how you can undermine or defeat those many ways that public schools fail African-American boys. All right, so go and get your copy of this book. So let's get started. We need to talk about the Electoral College. Now, most Americans believe their votes determine who becomes president. Well, their votes do determine who becomes president, but indirectly. The Electoral College determines directly who becomes president. I'm going to give you a brief history of the development of the Electoral College because of its impact on our country. Let's begin with why do we have the Electoral College? Well, back in 1787, the framers of our Constitution came together at the Constitutional Convention to create the foundation of our government, which is the United States Constitution, a document I have studied now for about 25 years. I remember my first constitutional law class. It was my favorite class in law school because I knew I would use my legal education to fight for full black equality in the spirit of Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Benjamin Hooks, and many others. Anyway, it was during the Constitutional Convention that the framers came up with the Electoral College to choose the president and vice president. This is spelled out in Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. But again, why did they come up with the Electoral College in the first place? A lot of it had to do with the issue of slavery. Initially, the framers considered electing the president by popular vote, but Southern states didn't like that idea. Back then, most people in the South were enslaved and couldn't vote, meaning the South had fewer people who could cast ballots compared to the North. Southern states wanted enslaved people counted as whole persons to increase their population numbers, which would give them more power in elections and in the government. The Northern states pushed back hard, arguing that only free people should be counted. After much debate, they reached a compromise. Enslaved Africans would be counted as 3/5 of a person. This compromise not only reinforced and extended slavery, but it also gave Southern states more seats in the House of Representatives. And since the number of electors each state has is based on the number of House members and senators, it gave the South more influence in the Electoral College as well. The system the framers created gave each state a number of electors that equaled the number of its representatives in Congress, both senators and House members. Here's how it works today. There are 538 electors in total. That 538 electors are divided between the states. A candidate needs a majority of 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. Each state's political parties choose a slate of electors based on how many electoral votes their state has. When you vote in a presidential election, you're really voting to decide which party's electors get to cast their votes for their candidate. For example, here in Texas, we have 40 electors, 2 from our senators and 38 from our representatives. Each party selects its 40 electors. If Kamala Harris wins the popular vote here in Texas, the Democratic electors will cast their votes for her. If Trump wins the popular vote here in Texas, the Republican electors will cast their votes for him. So when you vote, you're essentially voting to decide which party's electors will represent your state in the Electoral College. Now, in most states, whichever party wins the popular vote gets all of that state's electoral votes. The only exceptions are Maine and Nebraska, where the votes are divided more proportionately. And if no candidate reaches 270 votes, the U.S. House of Representatives steps in and chooses the president. Now, we certainly don't want that because of Mike Johnson. This system also makes battleground states, also known as swing states, crucial. While most states lean heavily Democratic or Republican, swing states are up for grabs and can go either way. This is why candidates spend so much time and money in states like Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, this year's swing states. Because of this system, if you live in one of these swing states, folks, your vote carries extra weight. You could be the difference between Trump and Kamala Harris becoming the next president. You've got to vote. Now, let me talk about impact voting. There are a few states that could swing Democratic if more black voters turn out in large numbers, what I call impact voting. States like Virginia, Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Maine could be crucial in future elections if we showed up to vote. One important thing to remember about the Electoral College is that the candidate who wins a state's popular vote typically gets all of that state's electoral votes, or at least they should. But this system can sometimes lead to surprising outcomes. For example, in 2016, Donald Trump lost the popular vote by almost 3 million votes, but he won the presidency with 304 electoral votes. Hillary Clinton got more votes overall, but because of the Electoral College, Trump became president. So what's a better alternative for black voters? A nationwide popular vote. This would ensure that the president is chosen by the majority of voters across the country, rather than giving outsized influence to smaller, less populated states. Additionally, basing presidential elections on a nationwide popular vote would not dilute the African American vote. Let me explain. In southern states, African Americans make up large percentages of the population of these southern states, but their voting influence is diluted or even canceled out by the greater percentage of white voters. That dilution or canceling of our votes would not occur in a nationwide popular vote scenario. So just remember, the Electoral College was born out of a compromise that gave Southern slaveholding states more political power. While it still shapes our elections today, we have the power to influence outcomes, especially in swing states. As Reverend Jesse Jackson said, hands that once picked cotton now pick presidents. So as we head into this next election, remember that your vote matters. And if we engage in impact voting, that is voting overwhelmingly, we can make sure they hear our voices so we can help shape the future of this country for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on. Now, I want to switch my attention to a couple of voting maps and let me demonstrate precisely what I just said to you. All right, so let's go to this first map. Now, as you see clearly in this map, in the middle of this map are a bunch of red states. Those are Republican states. I mean, they're solidly Republican. And then if you look, for example, at Florida, it is a Republican leaning state. All right. So Florida is also up for grabs, right? If enough of us turn out to vote. Now, the thing to remember, and this is one of the things that I was talking about in this video, a lot of these red states are not very populated. For example, Wyoming has less than 1 million people, yet they have how many? 3 electoral votes. 3. 2 senators, 1 House member. 3. Look also at North Dakota. 3. South Dakota. 3. That means that these states are not very populated, but they have, as I said earlier, an oversized influence on the choice of who becomes president because of the Electoral College. Look at Montana. 4 electoral votes, 2 senators, 2 House members. So basically, the Electoral College gives a whole lot of influence to these unpopulated states for the most part. All right. Now look at the blue states. There are not as many, but they are very well populated, many of them. In fact, California is the most populated state in the country. So therefore, it has 54 electoral votes. New York is another very populated state. It has 28 electoral votes. Now, I want you to focus your attention because this is where the candidates focus their attention. They focus their attention on those yellow states. Those are the swing states. They can swing one way or another. They're not heavily Democratic. They're not heavily Republican. So they can swing. So what are those states? Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. Those are the states that both Trump and Kamala Harris have spent a whole lot of time because those states will determine who becomes president. Those are those battleground states, those swing states. And if you live in either of these states, you must engage in impact voting, which means you got to go vote and you got to take people with you to vote. You got to help people get registered to vote. Because again, one of these states will determine who becomes the president. And that's simply because, right, the Democrats can pretty much depend on, over on the West Coast, they can pretty much depend on the state of Washington. Oregon leans Democratic. California is a solidly Democratic state. Colorado, New Mexico are Democratic leaning states. So obviously the candidates don't spend a lot of time and resources there. The same with Texas for the Republicans, as well as most of those southeastern states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee. Now, you look at a state like Virginia. Virginia tends to lean toward the Democratic Party, but we still got to show up in Virginia. We can't take for granted that Virginia is going to be a Democratic voting state. We got to show up. We, African Americans, we must show up. We got to reject this crazy stuff about voting the couch because the Democrats haven't done this or that. We got to reject that foolishness that these pro-black imposters have been pushing down your throats. All right. We got to completely reject that. All right. Because the Electoral College is going to decide who becomes the president, and they need to hear from us. Now, I want to mention something. I heard Omar Johnson say that it doesn't make any sense to vote because the Electoral College determines who will become president. He's right and wrong. The Electoral College does determine who becomes president, but he's wrong to say our votes are meaningless because, as I explained, if we vote in great numbers, then our candidate, who is Kamala Harris, will win the popular votes in our states. Therefore, the Democratic electors will vote for Kamala. So our votes are absolutely the engine that drive the Electoral College. So he's wrong about that. We must vote so that the Democratic electors will cast their votes for Kamala. All right? So back to this map. I want you to see it. I want you to get it into your memory. Get it into your subconscious. Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia are swing states, battleground states, and the candidates are battling for those states because they can swing either way. If you are a voting person in any of these states, listen, please engage in impact voting. Impact voting, which means, of course, you vote. Remember, go to iwillvote.com. Make sure you're registered. Make sure they've not removed your name because they are doing that sort of hanky-panky behind our backs. A lot of people's names have been purged from voting rolls. So go to iwillvote.com to make sure that you are indeed still registered to vote. And if you're not, get registered. Also, at least 10 people that you know, help make sure that they also are registered to vote. All they got to do is go to iwillvote.com as well. This is a wonderful website, a wonderful tool to make sure we are ready to go. All right, now let me show you another map, and this map just seems to be a little bit more illustrative, right? So we still see those battleground states. This map calls them toss-up states. Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Now, this map indicates, for example, look at Pennsylvania with 19 electoral votes. It leans blue. It leans Democratic. But that's not a guarantee. Donald Trump is up there fighting hard for all 19 of those electoral votes. Michigan, it leans blue. But in 2016, so many African Americans did not go out to vote, listening to those pro-black imposters, such that Michigan helped elect Donald Trump. And keep in mind, that was despite the fact that Hillary Clinton beat him by almost 3 million popular votes. Are you with me? That's why our vote matters. Our vote matters big time. I'm going to say it again. When we show up in big numbers, then we determine what slate of electors vote for that state. If our candidate, who happens to be Kamala Harris, wins the popular vote in these states, then the Democratic electors have pledged to vote for Kamala. So our votes are critical in this election. Very, very, very important. All right, so if you live in any of these swing states, you must vote. You must vote. You must vote. You have to vote so that Kamala Harris can get in office, and we then push her to put forth an African-American agenda. Of course, she's the president of everyone, but we want her to absolutely push forth an agenda that helps African Americans primarily. Now, that's why I have in the corner there, right over here, Advance 2026, the CEO program, but especially Advance 2026, because that is the purpose of that initiative. It is to push Kamala. It is to push her, absolutely push her to do right by African Americans. All right? Say, well, why do you have to push her? Well, because she's a politician. She's a politician. We have to push her. That's our job. That's the way democracy works. That's the way democracy works. Although she is a black woman, and man, there's so much foolishness out here about whether she's black, Irish, Jamaican, Indian. Man, I mean, those are all distractions. Candace Owens is out here creating distractions. What you need to be focused on is this map. This map. And you need to be focused on Donald Trump so that he's not able to manipulate this map and become president again. We know what that means. That means Project 2025, which means a whole lot of anti-blackness, a whole lot more federal judges who are anti-black. We cannot allow that to happen. And that's why I keep putting this map in your face so that you will get out and vote. Get out and vote, which is not much more than 30 days away. Not much more than 30 days away. Again, which is why I held this video on the Electoral College until right now. And in summary, the Electoral College, again, is the system that we use to elect the vice president and the president. No other politician, just the president and the vice president. And it's based on the simple principle of whoever wins a state's popular vote, then that candidate's electors will vote for that candidate, rather than a nationwide popular vote system, which is what I prefer and many other people prefer. Okay? Now, yes, we do want to get rid of the Electoral College, me and a whole lot of other people, but it would take an amendment of the Constitution because, again, the Electoral College, the framers put it in Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. But there are other ways. We don't have to wait on amending the Constitution. There are some other ways to get rid of the Electoral College so that we can have a nationwide popular vote majority system. So if you forget everything I said, just remember this map. Remember those 7 battleground states: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. Where are my North Carolina people at? Where are my Georgia people at? Where are my Wisconsin, Pennsylvania people? Where are the Nevada, Arizona people? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? We need you out voting in just a little bit over 5 weeks from now, November 5th. Okay? It is unfathomable for me that Donald Trump is reelected. I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, I think it was, and I won't even let myself go there emotionally because I know what intentions. As an attorney, there's just certain things I know because I understand the Constitution. Been studying the document for 25 years, and I know what they're doing. I know what SCOTUS is helping them do. I know what these GOP state legislatures are doing. I know what the GOP MAGA crowd is doing in the U.S. Congress. They just need one more chance, just like Trump said, and they will fix it. And we very well could become an autocratic government. And you all know we enjoy the freedoms that we have in our democracy. We don't want to lose those freedoms messing with Donald Trump. And if there's any crowd who needs to hear this, it is young African-American men under the age of 50 who need to become more critical in their analysis so that they are not misled with some of this foolishness that Trump and these black conservatives and these pro-black imposters are feeding into their brains. All right? So that is the Electoral College. Keep this map in mind so that you will understand what we must do on November 5th and leading up to November 5th. Because we already know that Trump is cheating. He's cheating. In 2020, he came up with his own slate of fake electors. They're doing everything they can to steal this election. But if we vote in overwhelming numbers, folks, that will prevent them from being able to steal this election. Okay? So, thank you for watching this video. Share it, like it, so that it will be recommended by YouTube to even more people. All right? The most important election in our lifetime, maybe in American history. I am Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. This is the type of empowerment that we bring you each and every week. Until the next time, peace.